One of the weirdest things that I've seen on social media are people making fun of people and putting people down that work 9 to 5 jobs. And I'm looking at this with a confused look on my face because when the hell did working a job that earns you money and gets you to a place where you could raise a family and live a good life and support yourself with said job become uncool? You know, it's just, sometimes I see people glorify the entrepreneur life or the influencer life and thinking that life is better than the average Joe that worked 9 to 5. But to me, it's complete ludicrous seeing these people make fun of people that work 9 to 5 jobs. You know, it's weird. If you a job is a job, especially in this economy where a lot of people are struggling to find jobs and opportunity. So no matter where you work at, whether you work in a warehouse, drive-through window at McDonald's, or you're making six figures, money is money, a job is a job. Like it shouldn't be your entire identity. And yes, there are jobs that are more desirable than others, but it's just one part of your life. When has, someone's worth be attached to their occupation or how much they make in a year? I blame social media and hustle culture for this, for, for judging someone's worth based on how much they make. If we were to put this into logic, then Elon Musk would be the greatest human to ever live because he's the richest man on earth. And me even saying that makes me laugh because of how idiotic that is. Because this is a man who, despite being the richest man on earth and is CEO to SpaceX and Tesla, he's still on at Twitter, posting white supremacy posts and arguing with random people on the internet. He is a complete degenerate, yet people are hailing him as like a messiah because he has a bunch of money. Money does not buy character. And the Bible, makes this very clear. In Luke chapter 16, it mentions the rich man and Lazarus. And which in that parable, if you had never heard of it, it's a parable that Jesus says, a rich man who was dressed in purple, fine linen, and lived in luxury every day of his life, and yet he ends up in hell. But Lazarus, a beggar who was by his gate, by the entrance of the mansion, enters into heaven. And, despite, the rich man calling out to God to have mercy on him and to warn his family about his fate. God and Abraham reminds him that he did nothing for the poor. He did nothing to help people in his life. So he will suffer that fate. And this parable teaches us that it's not wealth that gets us into heaven. It's our character. Our character is what God, and our heart is what God is looking for. That's what defines us. Not money, not success, our character. That's what it should be about. Because if we are, if we could just buy our way into heaven, then all the worst people on this earth would be getting into heaven. Heaven would be a cesspool and basically be a hell 2.0 if that were the case. But no, it's our character. It's how we treat other people. It's how we respect other people. How we are always humble and meek. Because Jesus even says that, blessed are the meek and poor in spirit and the humble, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Someone who is homeless on the street is worth more than a rich man in God's eyes, because the homeless man is humble and he has better character. So this hustle culture, these influencers, these streamers who are telling people that to quit their 9 to 5s and be like them, do not listen to any of that. Keep grinding, because there's nothing wrong with that. No, don't be ashamed of working a 9 to 5 job that earns you money, and it makes you able to to again, like, support yourself. Like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with supporting your family or yourself? It's just, these degenerate streamers. They're super arrogant. They think that just because they make a bunch of money, they're better than everyone else, even though if they were not making millions of dollars and being streamers, they'd be the dumbest people on earth, because people like Aiden Ross have like a negative IQ. They don't even know that Africa is a continent, which is common knowledge. They don't even have that. They just got lucky. But I'm not here to diss them. They're getting their bread, but at the same time, don't be influenced by these streamers, these influencers. Keep grinding. Keep on doing you. Keep on making that money in your 9 to 5, whatever it is. And also, the entrepreneur life and the influencer life is not as great as it seems. That's only like 0.00001% of streamers and influencers actually make 6 figures. The rest of the people they either make less than minimum wage and they go into debt, or they don't even make it at all, and they don't even earn any money from doing it. So it's literally the luck of the draw. Even if you put your hardest into content creation and into a business. So for the 99% of people, a 9 to 5 job is the way to earn money and support yourself. So, and social media is just, again, just selling the American dream, or a version of it that's completely unrealistic to what the normal average person does or has to do to get by. So, the moral of the story of this video is never be ashamed of the job that you work. Do not allow people in your life, do not allow social media to make you feel ashamed of the job that you work. Because at the end of the day, you're making money. And hopefully you're able to support yourself with that. You should be proud of that, not ashamed. And God doesn't shame you for the job that you have. He is looking at your character and your heart. So, if anything, focus on improving your relationship with God and treating the people around you with respect. Amen.